Hello and welcome to Menace. The demo is finally out on Steam and I could not be happier having followed this game for a while now. The full game is set to release February 2026. I'm Shadowcoast and in this video we are going to be talking about Mission Prep. Now in the demo or the game we're going to start a new game, and when you do, the first thing you'll have to select is your first starting mission. Now this is important to note because there are different mission objectives, difficulties, and rewards, so keep that in mind as you're reviewing. Also, once you select a mission, that will determine subsequent paths that you are going to take. So when you're selecting your mission, don't just look at the initial mission, but the full branching path to make sure you're taking on the missions you want and earning the associated rewards. In this case, I'm going to take an easy path. Now, it's off to planning the mission, and this is where we're going to spend the majority of our time. When we look at this screen, it's effectively kind of in three areas, or really two areas. We have mission prep, reviewing the AO, and setting our deployment, starting positions. And then on the right side, we'll just call it two, we have our squads and kits. So this is critical to understand. Now let's dig into looking at the starting map. Now down here we can move different units to deploy different areas. When you're reading the map, it is important to note that the colored items here, I guess the yellowish squares, that denotes some sort of cover. And depending on the level of cover you have, or the color, the quality, it's going to be lighter or brighter. So for example, if we want some cover where we're not just out in the open, we're probably going to deploy over here to the left, but we'll kind of determine that a little bit later in the game. And you can see here there's a giant rock here that's preventing us from deploying, which is unfortunate. So we'll keep that in mind on how we're going to do this in a little bit. Now let's move over to looking at enemies. Each of these denotes what enemies are. So a lot of the time we're going to have unknown entities, but then we will also gain information. So here, pirate boarding commandos, a team of heavily armored outlaws specialized in boarding and pacifying spacecraft through violent means. So these guys are going to be more deadly, harder to hit, and we're going to need some armor piercing for this one because we know they're heavily armored. Now we're looking, most of these are infantry. You'll learn the signs and unknown. We don't see any specific vehicles, at least that I'm not seeing here, so keep that in mind. And then we have our objective to capture. Let's move over to the right side and talk about squads and deployment. There are a couple of factors we always want to keep in mind here. First, the check marks mean they're deploying, and that's how you deploy them on the map. So for example, Lance Corporal Renew is not on the map. You can see her symbol because she is not deployed. Now, because she is a vehicle, we actually have to first add a vehicle, then we have to click add to mission. So you see that check mark, and then she shows up as an option. This will be critical because we're going to want some armor to provide some protection for our infantry as we advance, given we have a really poor starting position from that perspective. Now in every unit you're going to kit them out. So we're going to actually kit out the APC first, or light troop carrier, because that is easy to do. And we're also going to put some accessories. Smoke launchers will be critical because we're going to smoke in advance to cover, or maybe we get aggressive and go for it and directly attack. So we'll do that. Fantastic. And there's only one smoke launcher option available. Now the other thing to note here, in the bottom left of this unit card, we have promotions and perks. Here we're starting with 60 to apply. Each one costs 20, kind of base level, and then increases. So keep that in mind. We are not going to use this on Renew for this run. The other thing to keep in mind is then weapons. Now there are two lines of thought here. You can kit out your weapons and then increase your squad units. So that is right. You can expand your squads up or down. That effectively gives you more health because each squad member is basically a pip of health. But it also impacts the cost of upgrading or kitting out weapons and armor, because the more people in your squad, the more armor will cost. So for example here, you can see the improved small arms protective plating. So this is our, I believe, highest class armor. Yep, you see armor 75. Right now it's 100, but if I were to add, say, 2 more to this unit, or to Lance Corporal Jane, it is now 140. So it's 20 per unit. So keep that in mind. Now, the strategy behind this is fairly simple. You could kit out everyone and then see how many squad members you activate, or vice versa. I personally like to determine the squad size. So for example, this is going to be our sniper. She's a recon unit, black sleeve. So I'm actually going to drop down a level, so she only has 3, where my assault and spaceborne regiments, I want to be a little bit tankier. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 units to each. We're not going to worry about units there. And one of the perks to keep in mind, you should read them. Supply cost for her squad and equipment. Lance Corporal Jean Sai. She is pretty badass because she has that. So there we go. Now that I've applied my squad size, we can now select our kit for the groups. Now up here, this is a sorting filter function. So new, as you gain new stuff, you can say select infantry weapon. The one I always do is the item is available. I always click the check mark because you don't want to be just reallocating back and forth to different units. Now it's important to note that we have our infantry weapon and our infantry special weapon. So we always keep that in mind, because the infantry special weapon, you see 1x, that means that there's 1 sniper rifle we're going to apply, so keep that in mind. Or in this case, she's a recon sniper, I gave it away. Let's go ahead and see battle rifles, 9, 8, I'm just doing ranged for this one, and then you can see here I have the sniper rifle. Now this is plus 30 for sniper rifle. And just to note that there's only one of them, if I add, let's say, a bunch of people, it is still plus 30. But you'll see this number went to 72. We're going to drop this back down to 3. And now this is 36. So special weapons, you're going to denote here that 1x, it's just one of them. 4x, there are 4 because it's Jane plus the 3 from that perspective. And we're going to go ahead and give them some soft armor, because fatigues are 10, at least this armor is up to 30. And one thing I will denote here is it is important to look at your accessories. So we have our weapons, our main, our special, our armor, our accessories. Now, one accessory to keep in mind is ammo bag. I always put this on my sniper. Basically, it gives you more ammo for your sniper rifle, which is always good. Now, perks, as I mentioned, you want to be selective on your perks. They come with some perks to start with, but think about other perks you want. I personally like Scout plus 2 view range and plus 1 detection. We always want to know where the enemy is, which always helps. And we could Vanguard deployment zone, but that does not make sense to me for this particular deployment. And there you have it. Once you're done kitting out your group, so make sure you get, the people you're bringing, the squads you're bringing, the squad size, their main weapons, secondary weapons, armor, accessory, and promotions or perks. You then are set to start your mission after you select your kind of deployment zone and how you want to approach any given mission. So that is Mission Prep in Menace. If you found this video helpful, please drop a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in future videos. Shadowcoast out.